Hi, it's Joe again. We're going to be solving two problems today on my Nissan Murano. We're solving the problem of the rear window wiper motor not turning or turning partially, getting stuck up the window. And we're also going to be solving replacing your license plate lights. So here's the license plate light. As you can see that this one on this side is lit up and this one is not. But they don't really give you a good access from the outside because this molded piece of the tailgate is around it. You can't really get in there to get that light out. That has to be done from the inside. So we're going to be doing that for this side. And in order to do that, we actually have to take the inside trim of the tailgate off. The other problem, as I mentioned, is a problem with the windshield wiper on the back, either not moving at all, or it'll move partially up the window and then get stuck. The problem with that is that there is some corrosion that gets built up inside the shaft of this motor here. So we're going to be pulling this out completely, disassembling it, cleaning it, and hopefully when we reassemble, the motor will still be in good enough shape to be able to run for us again. Okay, so we got the tailgate open now. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the part of the tailgate off from here at this seam all the way around. This is all one piece, and it ends at this seam right here. This upper section here, while you look at it, while it actually looks like plastic, it looks like another plastic panel here. This is actually a molded fiberglass piece that is glued to the outer shell of the tailgate. This really tricked me the first time I worked on this. But this is very clever. This is actually a molded piece of fiberglass, but it looks like a plastic panel. When in fact, this is a plastic panel that allows you to access these harnesses if you needed to. So this part's removable, this is not removable. So we're going to start with 4 push connectors. There. You better look here. All 4 of those. And what I'm also going to do before I start is I'm going to pop out these lights. Because if you pull this whole panel down and yank these lights, when they come down, you're going to stress those harnesses. So I'm going to pull these out, disconnect them first, and then move to these 4 clips. And I'll show you how that's done. This doesn't take a lot of force, but you still want to be careful around the plastic side panel here so you don't scratch or gouge your interior. It comes right out like that. This one, same thing, pops right out. And then what you're going to have is you're going to have this electrical connector here. It's going to pull right out for you, like that. Same thing on this side. Now we'll turn our attention to these pop clips. The way these are taken out is you actually press it on the center, like so. You can get your fingers around it, and it comes out. And that's what they look like when they're out. So that's why it works. When you reinstall it, you pull this pin all the way back out, like so. So that way when you put it in, and then push the pin in, you actually expand those little claws, and it holds tighter into the plastic. So I'm going to replace the other 3, and then start showing you how to pull down the whole panel. Now there will be some more trim clips above this panel, so what I'm going to start at one end with my flat blade screwdriver, and I'm going to gently get in the seam there, like so. You can already hear the clips start to pop. Okay, so I got 1 clip loose, a couple clips loose. Just try and keep track of the clips. I'll show you where they go back in after the fact. So basically, the rest of this is just carefully working around the side here. A helper would be helpful, of course. That's why they're called helpers. But you see, I'm doing it by myself. So, and that's the whole panel off. And what you'll see with these clips is they fit back into these round spots here. So this one would actually go in like that. Okay, so I have a couple that are missing, gotta find them. Looks like this one, when I put it back on last time, I didn't catch it properly, so that was a little busted up. Okay, so now we're up inside the tailgate. Here's the wiper motor. You've got 1 license plate light connector there, 1 license plate light connector right there. So what you do here is you take it, you give it a quick twist, comes right out for you. I'll reach up there, twist the other one. Again, comes right out for you, so you can swap that bulb out nice and easy. I'm going to be swapping over to LED bulbs because we've already upgraded this car to HIDs, and we like to look at the LED bulbs. So basically this is just an easy switch now. These bulbs pull straight out from the socket, like that. They're blade type, like so. Double check for the proper part number, but I believe these are 194 bulbs, number 194. Then when you're ready, put it straight back in, same orientation. You see the socket there. So next we'll move on to repairing that wiper motor. Okay, so now we'll get to repairing the rear wiper motor. And to do that, we start by removing this plastic cover over this nut. I'm going to start by spraying some PB Blaster on this. You can use some of the penetrant fluid that you may like. And I'm going to take it real easy removing this. You do not want to rush this or force this, because once this snaps, your repair becomes a lot more difficult. I decided to try gently with a 1/4 inch ratchet. Nice small ratchet. You want to stay small because you don't want to break this nut if it's too seized. So I'm using a 10mm socket. And I'm just going to give it a nice firm... Oh, it actually popped loose for me, which is nice. Okay, so I was able to get that nut off. And I like to keep all my stuff organized and parts together, so I have the plastic cover there, keep the nut right there. So now the next move here is you're going to want to lift this arm up just a little. That's actually as far as the arm goes. If you've ever replaced the windshield wiper on the back of this thing, you know how hard that is. So then you want to try and pull this straight off. Okay, that wasn't working, so I'm going to use a couple of very, very gentle taps on each side to try and get it to pop loose. Obviously use extreme care when you're doing that. We're just trying to jolt it loose gently. And that was enough. It just needed a couple of gentle taps. So now we're back on the inside again. I'm going to unplug this plug that feeds the motor. They're going to be removing these 3 silver bolts. Those are also 10 mils and they're pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so I got those loose, except this last one here on this side. Okay, so the problem we have to solve here is there's a lot of corrosion around the base of this. That's causing extra friction when the motor tries to turn it. As you see, this is also very rusty here. I'm going to actually clean this up a little bit of sandpaper here, probably clean these threads gently with a wire brush. What I'm going to start by taking apart this back panel here, these 6 screws, which is going to let me get to the back of this gearbox system here. Because your motor is actually here, which is turning some type of gear here, and it looks like another gear system finally on the end. So I'm going to open this up, see what we have there, and end up cleaning up this shaft. Okay, now with that off, you can pull this metal arm off, put it to the side, I'll put it over here out of my way, and then this plastic gear here is going to want to come out. It'll actually fall out. Get that out of the way. So what we need to focus on now is this plastic gear here and the shaft that's connected to. So I cannot turn this by hand as it is right now, and that connects right straight through to this shaft. So if we can't turn that by hand, it's understandable this motor can't turn it. So the way this works is this is your motor. It spins that gear we just took out, which moves this arm back and forth, which turns the wiper for you. So we're going to continue working on how to get this out to get that shaft to move. And I'll show you here. I'll try and actually turn that with some pliers, and I bet you it's pretty hard to turn still. I actually cannot turn that at all with my pliers. that is seized in there pretty good. So I removed this small white cap from the back of this gear. And that didn't really teach me much of anything, except that there's no bolt behind there. So then what I've done, you also want to remove this small washer that you'll find at the base of this shaft right here. Okay, you don't want to lose that, because that helps that plastic gear ride more smoothly on there. Keeps that from seizing up. So then, we go ahead and have the vise open wide enough so that this gear can pass through the bottom. And then I've placed it here. And by doing this, you're giving good support for this whole casting, this whole aluminum casting. For instance, you wouldn't want to just do this holding it in your hand, or just by maybe supporting this tab here on a bench. You want to give it good support, because what we're going to do is I've put this nut back on here, just finger tight, and I'm going to tap that with a hammer, gently, and we're going to drive this shaft out in that direction. So with some hammering, I was able to get this out. I would recommend using some PB Blaster beforehand, letting it sit for a little bit. I did not. I would recommend using PB Blaster liberally and some oil. I actually damaged the threads on this when I was pulling out, so I'm going to have to deal with that somehow. So what I'm going to do now is, this is very corroded. I'm going to use some sandpaper. I'm using a 320 grit today. I'm going to clean this all up so it's nice and clean again. I'm going to test fit it back in the housing and make sure I can put it in and out smoothly, and then I can spin it with my fingers. Okay, so I ended up going to 60 grit. I actually ended up using my angle grinder with a flat disc on it to be able to get this a little bit thinner in diameter and a lot smoother. And then I also used a rat tail file into that bore that the shaft has to go back through. So between using the rat tail file and sanding this down very well to get rid of all the corrosion and everything that was on there, now I can actually start by putting this back on to here. So that goes on in that orientation approximately. And this also had one of those washers on it. Then I can insert that into the bore, press it down, and now I can actually turn this very gently by hand, just with the tip of my finger. Now, as you probably remember, I couldn't even turn this with pliers before. So that is the main problem that we're solving right there, is making that spin again. I've applied a dab of grease underneath this, because this has to be able to move a little bit as the motor works, and I put a little bit into the shaft as I passed it through, so hopefully that will stay greased well. That was just grease that I keep on hand for my regular grease gun. I don't know if it's a particular type of grease you should really use, but I used it, and I'm going to hope for the best. So I was able to repair the damage to these threads by using a 6mm by 1.00 die from my tap and die kit. And I just chased the threads. I used a little bit more force than this. I used the handle the first time I did it. But they weren't totally destroyed, they were just damaged somewhat. So basically I chased the threads down maybe 2 or 3 times, cleared any debris from the threads. And although the threads are not like new, they are going to be in good enough condition for me to install a new nut. I chose to pick up a lock nut for this. Again, it's a 6mm by 1.00 thread pitch. And this is going to work just fine. Okay, and here's the reassembled motor, turned on and working. It's not binding at all, it's will be nice and smooth. So that's the complete repair on how to repair that. And thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned.